Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're doing something a little basic, I know, but we're doing a knife tier list. It lets you guys see a little bit of my personality. If you're here and you're not part of the Counter-Strike community, you might be a little confused. That's okay. This video might not be for you. I would recommend taking a look at Counter-Strike though if you're into first-person shooters or you're into really cool art, because that's kind of what got me into it, is the skins. So anyway, let's just jump in here, start knocking out this tier list. All right, so the first knife we got here is the bayonet. This has probably one of the best draw animations in the entire game. That kind of flip around the hand is really cool, but it's so basic. If you look at this knife, all it is a knife. It's no personality, insanely basic. So I'm not hating on it. I'm not ragging on it. I still think it looks nice, and it has all the finishes in the game, which is also a plus. So I'm going to put it in B tier. It's fine, okay? It's not great. It's fine. Now we have the real hot take, the butterfly knife. I think everybody likes the butterfly knife. Flipping it around, the sound of it. It looks cool. The inspect, you have it all spread. It's fucking cool. But small blade, which is something that I don't really like. I like a knife with a bigger blade. I don't know. It's just not for me. I think it's not bad. It's better than it's 100% better than the bayonet for sure. But it's not enough to put it in S tier, and it's in S tier for everybody else's tier list. Everything else I've seen, it's been an S tier. It's just not for me. It's okay. It's better than okay. I shouldn't be that rude about it. It's great. It's just not one of my personal favorites, and that's kind of what S tier is reserved for. Okay, next we have the survival knife. This is a knife that's forgotten, and for good reason. I think. I think that it's okay, but there's too much going on. The slit in the middle, the hook, like it wants to be the gut knife, This little dot down at the bottom. I don't know, man. It's just trying too hard. And so for that, I'm going to put this in D tier. The only reason it's not further down than that, I might actually just delete E tier because I think that's stupid. But the only reason it's not F tier is because at least it has a big blade. So if you're on a budget, like at least you're getting a full size knife and not like something dinky and little. I think having the full size knife just makes you feel better. All right, so next we have the paracord knife. This is interesting because it's another kind of default looking knife, but I really like the paracord handle. I think that's a cool idea. And if I'm not mistaken, which I might be, the paracord does change depending on the skin, which is really, really cool. So it's kind of just a bayonet again with a worse draw animation and less finishes than the bayonet. So I'm going to put it in C tier. I think it's definitely better than the survival knife. It's definitely worse than the bayonet. Next up, we have the classic knife. I feel like this knife is severely underrated. And I'm not saying that because I'm invested in the CS20 case. I'm saying that because it's incredibly unique. Only knife with an idle animation. Awesome. Only knife with a unique, well worn wear pattern. There's an actual reason to want a well worn classic knife. You can't say that for any of these other knives. Battle Scarred, maybe, if you're in the high float community, you're into, the skin's looking a little more beat up, but well worn, why would you get well worn? Right? In the trading community, well worn is kind of known as the like the worst condition to get something in, where for the classic knife it's not like that. For the classic knife it pretty much goes factory new well worn. So I think that's super unique. it is just a little mid. I don't think anybody would argue about that. So I'm gonna actually put this in. Oh, it's tough, man. I'm gonna put it in B tier. I think the uniqueness of it is worth it. It's gonna end up being pretty low B tier, so don't get. Obviously, right now it looks crazy to have it there, but I don't think anybody's gonna be hating on where this is at towards the end of this. All right, next up we have the falchion knife. This is one of the better starting knives in the game. I think that the pattern usually goes down to the handle, which is cool. The blade's a little small, which is definitely a detractor for me, but I don't know. I think it's fine. I think this is probably the all-encompassing knife of mid. It's a fine knife. If you pull out a falchion knife in game, nobody's gonna be like, "Ew, dude, seriously, a fucking falchion?" You know, they're gonna be like, they're not gonna say anything. They're not gonna say nice knife, you know, because it's a falchion knife. But they're not gonna be like, "Ew," either. So I think that's fine. Another hot take: flip knife. Here's the pros. It has all the finishes on it, and the draw animation is like kind of okay. You know, it's better than just default. The blade is too long for the handle. I know I like a big blade, but if you have a folding knife and your blade doesn't fold into the handle, what are we doing? And if you didn't know that's a thing, that's a thing. There are people that make replica CS2 knives, and they make them correctly. The blade sticks out the butt of the grip, which is just I don't know. I just think it wanted to be cooler than it is. There's a better flip out knife than this. And and I would even go as far as to say for the price, it's worse than the Falchion. But if we're ignoring price, no, I hate it. I hate this fucking thing. I'm still gonna put it above the Falchion because the only thing making the Falchion better is the price, and I don't want to factor all that into this. It's barely better. It's barely better. The gut knife. This knife is a sleeper pick. This used to be the poor man's knife, right? When I was starting out in Counter Strike, if you could barely afford a knife, you would get a gut knife, right? When the Falchion came around, that kind of they both kind of towed the line there. Same with the Shadow Daggers, right? They were all those are your intro knives. And I think having a shittier knife with a cool pattern is so much better than having a good knife with a shit pattern. If somebody pulls out a butterfly safari mesh battle scarred, you're disrespecting the knife by having that skin on it. Where if you pull out a gut knife, marble fade, Doppler, gamma Doppler, obviously now there's all the different gamma and chroma finishes. Like you're really respecting this knife. You're saying I like this knife. I'm putting this beautiful skin on it. And so this is probably the hottest take. This is a B tier knife. All right. This is the worst piece of shit ever added to the game. I mean, the handle is awful. The damn, see, it's so bad it's got me fucking coughing. The the handle is ugly. The blade, it's short and it's fat. It's the worst thing I've ever seen. Navaja F, no hot take there. Everybody hates this knife, and I'm not gonna try to be special. All right, next up, the Karambit. Now, again, not including price because we do have the talent on here, and I don't want to, you know. The Karambit is a great knife. The Karambit is the it's essentially the same as the butterfly for me. Cool animations. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Flipping that shit around. Oh, inspect time. Oh, we're back to stabbing people. I think the backstab is a little jank, like this motion that they do. I think that looks a little weird. Sorry, I keep looking at myself in the camera. That motion is janky, but I mean it's always been one of the best knives in the game. For me, this is an A tier. I know that's crazy. Having both of these not be S, I know. It's my preference, man. The knives that are in S, I would rather have over these knives if we ignore price. M9 bayonet S tier. It's beautiful. It's a big knife. It's everything about the bayonet other than the draw animation, but better. It's classic. It's beautiful. Big knife. Oh, it's great. It's great. It's the only one of the original knives that makes it up this high. You gotta love a Monster TM branded beverage. All right, we're on a bit of a hot streak here. Next up, we have the Nomad. The Nomad knife pisses me off. Not because it's bad, because it's absolutely fantastic. This is my favorite knife in the game. So why does it piss me off? Because of simple. The Nomad knife, this used to be a cult classic. If you were a Nomad knife enjoyer, you were unique. You were different. You stood out. You had the best flip out knife in the game by a landslide. I mean, Navaja, Falchion, Flip, they're all down here. They're all mid. The Nomad, it was beautiful. It was perfect. And then Simple had to come along and use it. And now everybody thinks the Nomad knife is one of the best knives. It's priced like one of the best knives. Why? Why? Aside from that, let's talk about why this knife is up here. One, flip out animation. I like that he grabs it with two hands. Cool. I like that he accidentally pokes himself. Funny. Ooh, ow, my hand. Hilarious. Inspect, the normal one, it's fine. You know, you're just looking at it. The cool little like foop, foop, foop. Oh my god. The draw sound? Oh my god. It's a fantastic knife. Absolutely fantastic. Next up we got Shadow Daggers. Shadow Daggers, underrated. This is a C tier knife. But I'm gonna put it above all of them. Above all of them. Alright, next up, Skeleton. This knife is fantastic. Right? I mean, it's pretty much everything I said about the paracord, but instead of being this default knife shape, it has a cool knife shape. I actually, it's funny because I thought I knew which skins were gonna or which knives were gonna end up in S tier. This has changed it. This has changed it because this is going in S tier. I would much rather have a skeleton than either one of these. I think that this knife is, yeah, I mean, it's fantastic. Next, stiletto. Tiny knife, which is an immediate like bump down for me. It's better than the Navaja. I don't think anybody would argue that. I think the Navaja stands on its own as the biggest piece of dog shit. So barely squeaking out of F tier is the stiletto. Next up we got the Bowie. In the update a couple months ago, they got rid of the worst part about the Bowie. It's fixed. It's fantastic. A huge knife. You got a sword. You're holding a machete, right? I mean, you're running around full fisting this thing, and you can feel the heft when he flips it, looking at it down the arm. I mean, and now you have the other hand. Now you have the other hand. So this is an A tier, low A tier knife. We're coming up on my baby here. The Nomad is my favorite knife in the game. But back when I started playing, the Huntsman. Whew. Big knife. The first big knife. Cool, mean. It looks aggressive. Default everything. I don't care. I don't care. When you're holding this, you know. You know. You got that shit on. You know what I mean? Everybody in the lobby, when you pull out a Huntsman, they know. They know that they've gotten beat. Even if I was holding my Nomad that I love, the guy next to me pulls out a Huntsman, pulls out like a Huntsman marble fade. dude, like I get it, dude. Look, it's not my favorite knife anymore, but the aura that the Huntsman has, it's unmatched. I'm putting it second place. From highs to lows, the Ursus. This knife is fine. The rubber handle is a little gross, but it's not bad. It's okay. It's a flat basic knife. It's definitely worse than the paracord. Although the Inspect is cool, the little flip, like pats on your palm like that, that is kind of cool. You know what? You convinced me. You convinced me, Ursus. You get to be in C tier. Talon. Worse than the Karambit. I would say most people would agree with that. But I do think people's nostalgia goggles they got on are a little too finely tuned. It's worse than the Karambit, but not by a lot. It's in the same tier. I'll put it lower than the Karambit, but it's the same knife. You know what I mean? It's the same knife, but without as many finishes. But I mean, it won't be like that forever. You know, it's great. It's a great knife. And finally, the Kukri, the big flopper. You know that F and R or whatever your inspect button is. You're flopping that shit. I mean, I think it's cool. I do. I think it's B tier, and I think I'd rather have it than, and this might be recency bias, I think I'd rather have it than any of these. So, there you go. Final knife tier list. Just to recap, the most beautiful knife in the world is the Nomad. Skeleton snuck in there. Elegant knife. Little basic. Everybody thinks it's great, but I mean, it is. It is great. Come down here to the middle. These are some hot takes right here. Not having these S tier. I'm sorry. But it's not like I'm rating them down here. You know what I mean? They're still highly rated. Somebody pulls this out, you know they've got it, right? Good for them. I think that these get elevated because of their price. And I'm not factoring price into this, right? You pull this knife out versus a Huntsman, Huntsman mogs you. Only reason that this would mog is because everybody knows you spent $1,500 on it. That's the only reason. B tier, sleepers. That's this whole tier. These are sleeper hits, except for the bayonet. He's kind of, everybody would expect the bayonet to be maybe even higher than this. C tier, okay. That's how I would describe these. Nothing super special, nothing super bad. They all have one unique trait or one absolutely abhorrent flaw. D tier, they're bad. If you're going to buy one of these, there's an alternate version of it up here for around the same price. F tier, Navaja. I don't even need to explain myself. It's awful. Awful. Well, there you go. That's the tier list. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Hopefully, it won't just be a tier list video. I know those are kind of basic, but I enjoy doing stuff like this too. You know, they're fun. They're fun. And maybe this gets some more attention on my channel. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.